Hi there, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of Life in Motion. I'm your host, Grace Becker, and I am so happy to have you all here with me today. I'm really excited for today's episode, which I'll tell you more about later. But first, let's get into some exciting news. Okay, a couple of things. Y'all, I do not know the last time we caught up about the whole house situation, but Jaden and I were accepted. Our offer was accepted on a house, and we had our scope inspection, and we had our regular inspection, or sewer scope, and then inspection, and things went pretty good. I wasn't personally there, I was at work, but Jaden went, and definitely nothing came up that made us want to necessarily back out. I'm sure Jaden will want to look into that more on different behind the scenes with our negotiation stuff, but I'll let him handle that because he is the one, behind the house after all. But I'm just really excited. I really love this house that our offer was accepted on. So this episode won't come out for another maybe 5 weeks, just because I started building up a bank of episodes for when I go to Europe, because I'm going to be in Europe for almost the whole month of August, and I'm not going to be able to travel with all my podcast equipment. So I've been building up a bank. So my episodes from here on out at least until the end of August are going to be a little delayed, if you will. So if I'm talking about the weather, or if I bring up an event that happened in my life, just know that it's probably, I'm already on the next step, the next stage by the next time you hear about it. So just so you know that. But right now, as I am recording this podcast on a Sunday in June, start of June, that's what's going on with it. So more to come on that. I'm really excited. After debating, I think I am going to do some recording for my personal TikTok account and vlog that journey as well as Europe. I was talking to my friend Merritt, and I think it would be fun not only to make the content, because I do love doing some of this. I love making content. I used to edit my podcasts, but now I have an editor. Thanks, Ben. So I do like it, and I think I'm going to do that, but just not as, maybe not as, pressured, or, I don't know if consistent's not the right word, but I put out a podcast episode every Thursday, but I'm not going to put pressure on myself to have that same, every single week or every single day, I need to be uploading a TikTok video. I'm not going to do that to myself. It's going to happen when it's going to happen, slow and steady. I'm not going to, force myself to rush through it, but because I do have other stuff going on. Other updates, I have my sourdough starter. I've made so many loaves of bread already with it, and I'm so excited. So far, my favorite bread that I've made that I have personally tried is the bacon, egg, and cheddar one. Oh my God. It's so good. I just eat a slice or two of that for my breakfast, and it's so good. So good. I love it so much. I have made some other bread loaves that I've gifted away, so I don't know how those tasted or turned out, but I haven't heard any complaints so far from anyone, so I'm assuming that it's gone well for them. But it's been fun doing that. It's honestly been therapeutic to do the bread making, so I do really enjoy that. But other exciting news, I feel just lately I've been getting good news, so I'm really excited to share it with you all. Jaden, he is a part of the Army band, and so he was recently just promoted. Today, actually, as I'm recording this, he was promoted, and he is a sergeant now. Everybody clap for Sergeant Rorik. Isn't that so hot? I love it. It's so attractive. He's the coolest guy, and I'm so proud of him. He bamboozled me. He ambushed me, though. Freaking, I was thinking it was just going to be, a little ceremony. We're going to watch them do their formation. They're going to give him his new title. Maybe he'll get a new patch for his uniform or whatever. Yeah, he does. He does get a new patch, and he does get a new pin for his hat. But his family does it. He can have someone in his family do it for him. And so his mom did the patch on his chest on his uniform, and then I did his hat. Oh my. I mean, it was not bad. It was just fine, and it was really fun to be a part of it. But I like to know those kinds of things beforehand. And he just, when I got there, he was like, oh yeah, by the way, you're going to do my hat. And my mom is going to do the pin on my chest. I was like, way to just ambush us. I bet he did that on purpose. I bet he was like, I'm not going to tell them until they're here, until they're present, and I'm going to tell them then. So yeah, but congrats to you, babe. I'm really proud of him. He does a whole lot, for sure. He is a part of a lot of things. He does a lot. He definitely is a huge motivator in my life as well. Sometimes I'm like, geez, like, shit, let me get up off my ass here. But I'm really proud of him. So lots of good stuff going on lately, and yeah, more to come, everyone. You may notice I have a little buddy with me. His name is Woody. He's my cat. He's the one that had 3 teeth extracted. And out of all the spots, he chose to pick right underneath all my podcast equipment. He didn't fuck with any cords, so that's good. But I'm like, you have all this space on my bed and everywhere else. And he was like, no, I need to be right here. Right here is good. Cats always pick the most inconvenient places, but convenient for them. I don't know if any of you have cats. If you do, you probably understand what I'm talking about here. They just are like, and they do their own thing. Like, we are probably their pets in their eyes, right? Like, we do whatever they want. So got him here with me today. Okay, but that's kind of my little life update. I hope all of you are having a wonderful Thursday and go into a nice weekend. We're almost there, y'all. Tomorrow's Friday, and then we're basically there. We're practically at the weekend by the time it's Friday. So you got this. So today we're going to be getting into a little bit of anger management. Ooh. So I have anger management material. So I do anger management with clients individually. I was going to do an anger management group, but at my clinic, but groups just don't make as much money. And unfortunately, our clinic does not have the funds to fund a group that doesn't bring in a lot of money, because you just can't bill as much for them. So they told us, like, not right now. Like, they want to do it, right? Because we want to be able to offer that type of service to our community. Because I called around to so many different clinics in the area to see if they have an anger management group, because I had some questions about it, about how to, like, facilitate certain aspects, because I wanted my anger management group to be able to have people who are court ordered for anger management to be able to take it. And I was just curious on some different, like, licensures and requirements for that. But there's really no anger management. There's domestic violence, but there is a key difference, right, between the two. And so I was really excited to do mine, but right now we just don't have the money in our budget. But my clinic director told me that once we do, we will revisit it. So I'm excited for that sometime in the future. But honestly, I was totally fine with it. I think because I brought this to my clinic director and I was really excited about it, and I still am excited about it. I think she may have felt bad that she had to tell me not right now. I would think that'd be hard at any time. If you have an employee coming to you, bringing this awesome idea for the clinic in the community, but then you can't do it, I think that'd be hard to break that news to them. But it honestly kind of came at a good time. I'm not mad at it, because it was when, this podcast was starting up. I took out my sourdough starter. Jaden and I were looking to buy a house. We were moving. We're traveling to Europe. So much is happening. So, it's probably for the best, because I would probably be overwhelmed if I had to facilitate and run a group once a week and do all the prep that goes with that, while also managing all those other things. But I say all of this to say that what I'm talking about today is quite literally just a small part of the anger management material that I have. And the anger management material that I have, y'all, I do this every time. I really need to just look up the freaking resources that I use, because I've had this like material written up for quite some time now. But a lot of it is pulled from this book called like Stop the Anger or something. I'll have it in the show notes, y'all. Everything is going to be in the show notes, like the resources and everything, like it always is every week if I use resources, because sometimes I don't. Sometimes I just pull from my experience as a therapist and life and my guest experience if I have a guest on. So I don't always use resources, but today a lot of this material is coming from this book that I will link down below. But yeah, so just kind of getting into it. This, like I said, is going to be a very small part of that anger management material. The anger management material is roughly, it takes about 12 weeks to get through. It's broken up into 6 weeks, but I always have to use 2 hour-long sessions to get through 1 week. So really it's a 12-week long material. So this is quite literally just a little snippet out of 1 week. So yeah, as my little teaser, I have some questions for y'all to maybe kind of get you excited and maybe you can relate to this. Have you ever snapped at someone and immediately regretted it? Or have you ever bottled up your frustration until it explodes over something small, right? Like dirty dishes, or maybe someone didn't take the garbage out, or maybe someone has just a slightly stern tone with you, and that's just when you explode all of a sudden. Well, in this episode, we're going to be diving into that. We're going to be diving into anger, kind of where it comes from, why we fear it, how to manage it before it manages us. So if you've ever felt like your anger has a mind of its own, then this one is for you. So getting into this, the book talks about knowing your hot thoughts. And it says, quote, "Hot thoughts are the ideas you think to yourself that instantly get you angry." Hot thoughts can also be called trigger thoughts. And when this is mid-quote, I'm still quoting this, but trigger thoughts is what I use with clients mostly, because one person might say something like, hey, like, could you help me with the dishes tonight? And maybe they were in a past relationship where like dishes was like a major thing in their relationship. And so when they're like now in a completely different setting and someone's bringing up dishes, maybe that's a trigger thought for them that brings them back and they just, release that anger. Okay, so back into the quote. So these hot thoughts can also be called trigger thoughts. And that's because these thoughts are the triggers for the gun called anger. You think of them and boom, off it goes. These can also be referred to as automatic thoughts. That's another popular term a lot of therapists like to use. Automatic thoughts are basically just, and again, I'm pulling myself out of this quote, automatic thoughts are basically just the initial thought, kind of your reaction thought. So to give you some context to it. And these are called automatic thoughts because they occur so quickly in your mind. Something bad happens or you think about what could go wrong and then there they are and they're making you angry. So that's what these are. Hot thoughts, trigger thoughts, automatic thoughts, whatever you want to call it. They cause trouble for us. And these thoughts are the junkyard dogs in your mind. They're always ready for a fight. They snarl at everyone and everything that walks by. They're fighting beasts that never get friendly. These dogs are just plain mean. You've got to keep them on a strong leash. Okay, end quote. That was still the quote. Because not all dogs are bad dogs. So just so everybody knows that, got that clear. But that is what the introduction to one of the weeks talks about, is hot thoughts. And the reason I pulled this out of all of the things I could have pulled from the anger management material is because I think that's very relatable, right? All of us, everyone. No one is immune to anger, frustration, annoyance, whatever the case may be. And we all can get into these irrational, like automatic trigger hot thoughts, I think. Whatever it may be. I was just trying to think of maybe what some of my automatic hot thoughts are. And mine usually are centered around my environment, things I see. So if I'm in a cluttered environment, whether it's cluttered or dirty because of me or another person. Like if dishes are left in the sink and they're not my dishes, they're like my roommates, or if Jaden left dishes, I'll see that, and sometimes that will just make me angry. I'm like, ugh, like the dishwasher's right there. The dishwasher's dirty. Why can't you just put it in there, right? And I just, boom, I'm like already off with my thinking. Sometimes it's because of my own self. Like maybe I will make a mistake at work, or my space will be cluttered. And I'm just like, oh my God, Grace, like that was so stupid. That was so idiotic. Why would you do that? And I am, boom, like triggered and off running with that thought. So what are some examples of hot thoughts? So hot thoughts are usually short, vague, or overgeneralized thoughts. So here's a few examples. So some of them can be like, I don't take shit from nobody. I can't take it anymore. Nobody appreciates me. You can't trust anybody. You can't do your job. I hate you. You can't make me. They're out to get me. How dare they do that or say that? Fuck you. Fuck them. All these things, right? And you don't have to say these words out loud to get mad. All you have to do is think about them, right? Like, I mean, honestly, a lot of the times I think people do tend to say a lot of these out loud, especially if it's involving another person and that other person is present. Some people can let these thoughts control their actions, or like lead to irrational negative actions, because it's one thing to have a thought and it's another to say it out loud. I mean, neither one is going to be very productive usually. That's why we're talking about hot thoughts in how they're not productive. But sometimes can lead to really irrational behavior. Like, it's one thing to think in my head, oh, like fuck you, fuck them in my head. But it's another to actually say that to another person, right? Because that's going to tend to create defensiveness in the other person because I'm attacking them. And the thing about defensive people is that they're really, really shitty, lousy listeners. And they're not going to be listening to me. And usually when a person gets angry, they're trying to tell you something's wrong. And when I'm doing that, and if I'm using attacking judgmental language, that other person is going to get defensive. And they're not going to listen to me when they're defensive. And then that's going to cause more frustration for me, right? They might attack me back, and then I might get defensive, not listening to them. So you see how this can just kind of evolve into a really irrational, unproductive cycle, right? So here is something you can do if you relate to any of this. So the first thing I would recommend is to identify your hot thoughts. So kind of reflect, did you relate to any of the ones I listed off? What are some maybe personal ones to you? Just reflect, because knowledge is power. And if you can know and understand, okay, these are some of my hot thoughts, right? And even if you don't know it at this moment, like, just go about your week. And if you start to have some and you notice it, like, boom, catch that. Type it out in your notes app in your phone, or boom, catch that, write it down on a piece of paper or journal or whatever you have, because it's very helpful to know what a hot thought is, because how you're going to cope with it is by creating a new thought. And the opposite of a hot thought is a cool thought, right? So this is how you're going to cope with it. You're going to reframe your thinking. So for every hot thought, it's like a coin. Flip it over and there is a cool thought. Cool thoughts help you to stay calm and they keep you sane. So here's some examples of how you can do that, how you can take some hot thoughts and you can change it, challenge it, and form it into a cool thought. So the first example, the hot thought is, I don't take shit from nobody. A cool thought could be, I'll listen to somebody I respect. Right? So instead of saying like, I don't take shit from no one, challenge it and say, you know what? Like, I will listen to someone, not necessarily everybody, but someone I do respect, whether that's a colleague, parent, friend, a partner, maybe a like a role model, like a celebrity, someone's podcast, like mine, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, so I'll listen to somebody that I respect, right? So that's one way you could challenge it. Example number 2, hot thought, fuck you, fuck them, right? I think that's a really popular one for a lot of people, really quick, really easy, has a curse word in there. So people love to throw out that little fuck you, fuck them. But a cool thought you could have instead of that is to say, slow down, stay in control. And the key thing to remember with some of these cool thoughts is this is just to help you initially control your reaction. Because arguably, that is one of the hardest parts about all of this, is just stopping, just not having a reaction, stopping before you do something or say something irrational or negative. So if you maybe have the intuition or the desire to say, fuck you, fuck them, try replacing it with a cool thought. Slow down, stay in control, right? So that's a cool thought that you could replace it with. And that's just a start, right? Because there's more steps you could take after this that I don't know if we'll have time to get into today's episode. But it's a start, right? Baby steps. We're building up baby blocks. Baby blocks? We're building up blocks here. Rome wasn't built in a day. It was with one stone at a time. It just didn't just appear one day. And my final example, hot thought, you can't make me. I think probably a lot of parents are getting triggered by that thought alone. From probably kids say that a lot, I bet. But hot thought is, you can't make me. A cool thought you could have is, of course you can't, but I can choose to do what you want. So if you have that thought of you can't make me to somebody else, you can remind yourself, well, of course they can't, right? Nobody can control you. No one can control what you do, what you say, whatever the case may be, right? You are your own person, and at the end of the day, you are in control of what you do or say. But I can choose to do what you want, right? So it is still an option, right? That person you can accept and understand, they can't make me, and it is an option. I do have the choice to still do what they would like, right? But you don't have to, right? So sometimes just acknowledging the power that you have is very helpful, right? To know, what, they can't force me, and at the same side, the flip of the other token, or the other side of the token, is that it is an option, and I can choose to do it, but I don't have to, right? And in that, there is control. But every person has their own cool thoughts, right? And what works for one person may not work for another person. What works for me may not work for you. But the test of a cool thought is very simple, though. It should help you feel calm when you think about it. So if the thought is slow down, stay in control, doesn't calm you down, then you could say to yourself, what would, right? Because these are just examples, and they're designed to kind of get you thinking about it. But whatever works for you, right? If, slow down, stay in control doesn't work, replace it with something different. If I'll listen to somebody I respect doesn't work for you, replace it with something different. But it's designed to help you calm yourself, right? And then help you to proceed more mindfully after that. So go back to, remember when I was talking about the hot thoughts and I had you think about, okay, what are some of my personal hot thoughts I might have? Go back and for every hot thought you had, replace it, or right underneath it, put a cool thought. So if you listen to this episode and, this next week afterwards, you write down any hot thoughts you have, right below that, I want you to write a cool thought to go with it. And if you need a little help, if you need a little inspo, there's no shame in, phoning a friend, or maybe if you have a therapist, talking to them about it, going on Google. Chat GPT is always, sometimes it can be a good resource, just to kind of get some ideas rolling, right? That's why they're there. Sometimes these can be really excellent resources. So that's kind of the intro to this, right? I think that's a really powerful way to start looking into this, is because our thoughts are connected to the things that we do and the way that we feel, right? I've talked about that CBT, cognitive triangle, before. All of those three things are connected: our thoughts, our feelings, and our behavior. So if you can find a way to reframe your thought, oftentimes that's going to influence the way that you feel, and then that's going to also influence the way you behave, right? And it doesn't always have to start with a thought. It can start with a behavior, then a feeling, then a thought. But just finding a way to infiltrate that triangle when you're having those irrational, automatic, hot, triggering thoughts is very helpful, and it's a good way to start and a good way to think about it, right? Okay, so the next part of this anger management that I'm talking about is don't make a bad situation worse. So the book kind of gives this little example. So it says, quote, "Your 12-year-old kid comes home shaved bald on one half of her head and green hair on the other. She didn't ask permission. You're not happy about this. You march toward her to tell her just that. But before confronting her, you remind yourself to avoid 3 costly mental errors. Don't awfulize, devilize, or personalize." Okay. I'm still in the quote, but just like side note, I personally like to replace devilize with like evilize, because just devilize makes it kind of religious-y, and I know that's not everyone's jam. So you can take out devilize and replace it with whatever you want, but basically like awfulize, devilize, or personalize. Okay, back into the quote. These 3 mistakes all make a bad situation worse. Make them and you'll probably lose control. And here's what you might say, right? And then it gets into explaining what those 3 things are. So when we're in a bad situation, when we're in any situation, you always have options. You always have different choices to make. Even if it feels like there's nothing, there always is. You can tolerate the problem. You can solve the problem. You can make the problem better, or you can make it worse. And if you were to do these 3 things that I'm going to explain to you, that would most likely make a bad situation worse. Okay, Grace, like what is awfulizing, devilizing, personalizing? Like what are those things? Okay, so awfulizing is to say something like, "That's terrible, I can't stand it, that's the worst thing you've ever done," right? You're just making it sound really awful, right? So that's terrible, I can't stand it, that's the worst thing you've ever done. Devilizing or evilizing, whatever you want to call it, is to say something like, "You must have joined a cult," right? Just trying to make them seem like a really evil, devilish person, right? So like saying, "Oh, you must have joined a cult," right? Or, "Oh, like, you must have like joined a whatever, like a, I don't know." What do we even say? Like, I was going to say like a club or a gang, but sometimes those aren't even necessarily devilizing or evilizing, right? So that's an example of devilizing or evilizing. And then the last one is personalizing. So this is saying something like, "You did that just to hurt me, didn't you?" Right? So making it about you, personalizing their choices and making it about you. Like, "You did that just to hurt me," is kind of a popular one when it comes to personalizing. And each of these mental mistakes turns your child into the enemy. So we're back into the quote from the book. So she becomes a dangerous opponent whose only goal is to make your life miserable. And you forget that she's a really good kid. You forget that you love her when you attack them. And by the way, you don't need another person in the room to make these mental errors. It's all in your head, right? So like, you don't even need another person in the room. You can do the awfulizing, the devilizing, and the personalizing while you're driving in your car. You can do it when you're alone in your kitchen, anytime, any place. You don't even need another person involved, right? It could be a situation all about you, and you can do these things still, and you can make a bad situation much worse. But you've got to catch yourself whenever and wherever you start making these mental mistakes. So some things you can do to check in with yourself about these is, okay, when was the last time you caught yourself doing the awfulizing? When was the last time you caught yourself doing the devilizing or the personalizing? What was the situation? Like, what was it about? What was the results? Who was involved? What was the last thing? Like, what was the hot thought? How could you have tried to use a cool thought in association with it? Was there something that triggered you? why do you think you reacted that way? And, just kind of like, what was the end result of that situation, right? And the reason that you want to think about these things is it can bring it into perspective for you, right? And if you are recognizing like, oh shit, like maybe there's a common theme here, then that is a clue on how to work through it. Like if the reason, like a common theme is it's always about my kid, like most of the time it's about my kid. Okay, maybe you have some work there to do about like how your parenting, your like parent-child, caregiver-child like structure, right? Like what, maybe take a class, maybe go see therapy, family therapy, something to do something different, right? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. And if you are consistently using these three things to make a bad situation worse, like, I don't know what you think's gonna happen. like what? Like you think awfulizing, devilizing a person or personalizing the situation is gonna help? No, it's not. Most of the time, it's always going to make it worse. I love that. Most of the time, always. But it's honest. It's very true. So here are some things also you can think of, and you could even like kind of go through and like check off the ones that you maybe need most to remember. And these are ways to prevent the awfulizing, devilizing, and the personalizing. Okay, so awfulizing. Here are some things you can do to prevent it. First one is you could tell yourself, like, this is no big deal. I can handle it, right? Kind of gets you to have that cool thought associated with the hot thought. Another thing you can do, you could rank it on a scale of 1 to 10 how important this issue is, right? Try to do a little prioritization. 1 meaning like very low priority, 10 meaning very high priority. Like how actually important is this issue right now, right? Like at the end of the day, like your daughter shaved half of her fucking head and colored the other half green. Like, what are you going to do about it now? Like, you can't go turn back the fucking clock and make her not do it. But what you can do is something like shave the other half off or go buy her a wig or, you know what I mean? Like, so you can do like a little ranking scale for priority. Something else you could do is you could say, like, acknowledging the frustration. You could say, this is disappointing. However, it is also not a disaster, right? So kind of acknowledging, this this sucks, right? Like your kid just did this and it is frustrating. Yes, make space for that. And it's also not a disaster, right? Like we can manage it. Another thing you could do is just tell yourself, let's not make this bad situation worse, right? Another cool thought that you could have with this hot thought. And finally, this one can help put a situation into perspective, and it's really going to depend on the person. But what you could do is you could tell yourself, nobody died here, right? So it's not so awful. If no one died, is injured, hurt, whatever, you can remind yourself it's not so awful. The reason that one I kind of list as last is because it almost tells the person, oh yeah, you shouldn't make space for your thoughts or your feelings about this. But no, like you can feel frustrated. Just remember that your thoughts and your actions aren't always valid. So you want to be mindful about that one. Okay, how to prevent devilizing. So here are some things you could do. You could tell yourself, just because I don't like it doesn't make it evil, right? Just because it's maybe not what you would do or what you would want them to do doesn't make it evil. He, she, they do not have horns on his, her, their head. These are from the book. So I just take what works for you, leave the rest. You could also tell yourself, he, she, they is a good person, right? And remind yourself of different facts or times that they have been a good person. You can also say, I'm no better than anybody else, right? Like everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody gets that way. You know what? No, what I'm talking about? It gets that way. And you're no better than anybody else, right? And finally, you could say, maybe my way isn't the only way. I love that one so much because, like I said earlier, there's more than one way to solve a problem or to work through a problem. And your way is not the only way, Something you could do in that situation the book gave is you could turn it on to your kid and be like, oh my gosh, like you shaved half your head and now you have the other half is dyed green. Like, what are we going to do about this, right? And make them a part of how to work through the problem. Don't just devilize them, evilize them, whatever, and make them feel guilty about it, but also have them be part of the solution, right? It's a good way to go through it. And finally, how do we prevent the personalizing? So one thing you could do is you could tell yourself, don't take things so personally, right? Just like remind yourself that, like, hey, let's not take this personally. Sometimes that can be helpful, but also another one of those that's like easier said than done. Works for some, not for all. You could also say he, she, they didn't do this just to hurt me, and remind yourself of the facts, right? Like, okay, they probably weren't like, oh my God, mom or dad or like brother, sister, whoever is gonna like hate this, I'm gonna do it, right? Like they don't probably do it to intentionally hurt you. You could also remind yourself that it's not about you, it's about them, right? Usually when a person does something like that, very rarely do people make decisions like that regarding another person. Usually it's always about them and not you. You could also tell yourself, I need to back off, right? Like, I need to like just back off of the situation a little bit, or I need to like lay off a little bit. And finally, you can also say to yourself, I don't have to take responsibility for their choices. Boom! You never do. Parent, caregiver, friend, spouse, partner, whatever. Like, you do not have to take responsibility for another person's choices ever. And like, sometimes like some people do, right? Like if their kid, I don't know, friggin' draws on the wall of their friend's house, like yeah, like that's your kid, but also like you didn't do it, right? So you don't have to take responsibility for their choices. You can, right? You can be like, I'm so sorry that my kid did this. Let me like pay to get this painted over, or let me help you clean it off. But you don't have to always do that, right? So that's a good reminder is, hey, you know what? Like, I don't always have to take responsibility for these things. So just because my kid showed up with half of a bald head and the other half green doesn't mean that that is my responsibility. Like, I'm not the one who chose that for them, right? Like, you can help them like with the aftermath, but you don't have to say like, this is a choice that I helped make or that I made for them, because you didn't, right? Whether it's coloring on the wall or shaving their head, right? Like, you did not make that choice for them. So that's kind of ways to acknowledge and prevent those 3 things that a lot of people do. Those are common mistakes people make when making a already bad situation worse. And finally, the last thing I wanted to share with everyone is a review of coping thoughts. So below are some of the better coping thoughts that people could use, right? So again, take what works for you, leave the rest. And there are 9, I believe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 different coping thoughts that you could give a try next time you might be feeling angry, annoyed, frustrated. Just to try something different. Because remember what I said? The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, but expecting different results. So let's do something different, y'all. Let's do something fucking different, and maybe you will get a different result that is a little bit better, a little bit more to your liking. So the first one, y'all know this one, cool thoughts. So you could tell yourself something like, just stay cool, getting pissed off will not help. That's one. The second one that you could do is have problem-solving thoughts. So this is something like, break the problem down into smaller pieces. It's easier to deal with it that way, right? So getting really practical with whatever issue's going on. Like, okay, let's break this into smaller pieces. It's easier to deal with and actually try to solve them. The third one you could do is called escape routes. So this is something like, I need to leave before I get too angry and do something dumb. So you can kind of plan out your escape, right? So getting that space, because sometimes you do just need space from the situation. Taking space isn't always a permanent solution to an issue, but it is helpful to kind of gain some perspective and to avoid that, irrational reaction that sometimes people have. So planning your escape route can be helpful. The fourth one, self-confidence thoughts. So this could be something like, this seems like a big deal, but I have dealt with it with worse, right? So self-confidence, like if we have dealt with worse situations, we can remind ourselves, you know what, like I've been here before, or I've managed worse, or I've been through worse. So this, although it feels like a big deal, like I know I got this in the bag because I have done this or something worse before, or gotten through something worse before. The fifth one is new explanations. I use this one all the time, like when I'm driving, or like or if I'm like just like it's going through like a drive-through, or like if I'm meet past someone that like a stranger and God, they just say or do something that irritates the fuck out of me. But new explanation is basically to say like, oh, they're probably just scared, tired, or misinformed. Or like if someone like cuts you off in traffic, you could just create a new explanation of like, rather than, oh, they're doing this maliciously to piss me off, you can tell yourself maybe they're running late and that's why they had to do that, right? Or maybe this guy's having a hard day and they're just taking it out on me, right? Like you're on the phone with someone. For all my people who are in customer service, like waiters, waitresses, servers, customer service, retail, whatever, like we all have been in those jobs, office jobs, whatever. We answer phone calls, receptionists, where we get angry people. And we can tell ourselves that sometimes, you know what, maybe they're just having a really bad day and they decide to take it out on me today, which, I mean, doesn't make it okay, right? Like, you don't have to make it okay, but remember, this is about controlling ourselves because we can't control other people. So if you get all fired up and you get angry, like, usually that's not always going to result in the best, ending. So these are just like the initial thoughts. So if we can come up with a new explanation of like, maybe they're just having a bad day, that can usually keep us calm and cool so that we can proceed more mindfully, more productively. So that's the fifth one. Sixth is to see the whole picture. So this could look something like, in 100 years, it won't matter if I get to work 6 minutes late or, whatever, or in 10 days even, right? So seeing the whole picture is usually helpful. I've used that one a lot as well. Like, oh, you know what? Like maybe if I've gotten a bad grade back, or if I've ran late to something, I can usually tell myself, you know what? In 10 years, 5 years, at the end of the week, at the end of the day, this is not really going to matter, like kind of seeing the whole picture of the situation. It can really, bring perspective and priority to how serious of an issue it is. The seventh one is getting accurate. Oh my God, I use this one all the time with people. Basically, this is where you can tell yourself, I need to focus on the facts and evidence and nothing else. So usually when a person is getting angry, irritable, frustrated, they're really in their emotion mind and struggling to bring in logic to get them in wise mind. So if you find yourself, reacting very emotionally, try and ask yourself, okay, what facts, what evidence do I have to support this? Getting really accurate about what's going on usually can help us to calm ourselves down, right? So that is number 7. Number 8 is preferences, not shoulds. I don't know if I've ever talked about my dislike for the word should and shouldn't. I probably have. I know I have. But if you've skipped around episodes, you probably haven't heard it. I despise it because it places unrealistic expectations on ourselves and other people. But what you could do is you could replace should and shouldn't with prefer. So what I want to happen and what has to happen are two very different things. And we can say, instead of what should or shouldn't happen, I would have preferred this, and that's not the way it happened, but this is what I can do going forward, right? So preferences, not shoulds. And finally, I love this one. People are doing their best, y'all. People are doing their best. They are doing what they can. Yelling at them, getting pissed at them is not going to help the situation at all. It's going to make it worse usually. So, as hard as it can be to try and cope with that of like, oh yeah, this person on the other end of the phone yelling at me. Yeah, they are doing the best they can. Yes, people can be better and people ought to do better, right? We probably would prefer it if they would. But usually at any given moment, people are truly doing the best that they can, even if it's not what we would prefer. But, getting pissed at them or yelling back at them, retaliating, getting our revenge is usually not going to help. So just food for thought. So that's really what I have for you. That's the 9 different coping thoughts. I really like most of these. Honestly, I like all of them, but some of my favorites are the new explanations, seeing the whole picture and getting accurate. I love me a good problem solving thought as well, especially if the issue that you're angry about can be taken care of very practically. But yeah, that's really what I have for you all today. I have so much material on anger management. So if you really liked this, or if you have specific questions centered around anger management, please hit me up. Please hit me up. I'm going to leave all of my socials and my email in the show notes below. So if you want to know more about this, or if you want to follow along, just let me know, y'all. But thank you so much for listening and for your time today. If you liked what you heard, y'all, please leave me 5 stars. Also, leave me a comment, y'all. I don't know if any of you know Leo Skeppy. Oh my god, I'm so sorry, Leo. He's definitely not listening to this, but like, I love him. And oh my gosh, my mic. And I listened to his podcast, Aware and Aggravated, and he is like, I like to see who makes it this far, and then tells him what emoji to comment. And I kind of want to adopt that into my podcast. So if you made it this far, comment an angry face. Comment like a heated, like, angry face. Please do. I would love to see that, just to see who made it to the end of the episode. But yeah, shout out to my editor, Ben. Thank you so much, Ben, for all that you do. I upload podcast episodes every Thursday of every week, and I'm really excited because I think I'm going to be breaking into season 2 of my podcast soon. But yeah, you can listen on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. So catch me on all the apps, y'all. But until next week, embrace the chaos and find the beauty. Bye.